Hi friends, and welcome to Folklore Diaries. Here, we share real-life horror stories and chilling legends from around the world. Some of them happen to our listeners, others have been passed down for years. So get comfortable but stay alert, because the next story might just keep you awake tonight. And if you like true horror stories, consider subscribing. Okay, let's begin. The road wound through the mountains like a cracked gray ribbon, half swallowed by mist. The air smelled of wet earth, pine, and something faintly metallic, like rust carried by the wind. Liang had been walking for hours. His boots were coated with mud, and the weight of his backpack pressed hard against his shoulders. The bus had dropped him miles away, near a forgotten road sign with paint peeling off. From there, he had followed the winding path deeper into the hills. Few outsiders ever came here anymore. The countryside was fading, swallowed by modern cities and bright neon lights. But Liang had chosen this path for a reason. He was tired of the noise, the pressure, the endless race of urban life. His grandfather had once spoken of this village, a place untouched by time, where traditions still lived. Curiosity, and perhaps something deeper, had pulled him here. When he finally saw the rooftops appear through the fog, it was as if he had stepped into another world. The village rested in a valley surrounded by thick forests. Wooden houses leaned on stilts, their roofs tiled with dark clay. Red lanterns hung from doorways, though most were dim, their paper wrinkled with age. Chickens clucked lazily near the paths, and an old water wheel creaked beside the stream. But it wasn't the stillness of the village that unsettled him. It was the way the people looked at him. As Liang entered, a group of elders paused from their quiet conversation. Their eyes, clouded yet sharp, followed his every step. A woman carrying a basket of herbs quickly turned down another path. Children who had been playing near the stream ran off without laughter, as if silence was safer. Only one old man, sitting on a worn wooden bench, raised a hand in greeting. "You came far," the man said in a voice like dry leaves. Liang bowed slightly, polite but curious. "Yes, grandfather. My family was from around here, many years ago. I wanted to see this place." The man studied him for a long moment. His face was weathered, skin like paper stretched over bones. Then he nodded. Outsiders don't stay long. There was no welcome in his words, only a quiet warning. That night, Liang found a room at a small inn, if it could even be called that. It was a two-story wooden house run by a silent woman in her 50s. She gave him a candle, not bothering to explain that there was no electricity. The walls were thin, the floor creaked, and the silence was so complete that Liang felt every breath of wind against the shutters. He lay awake long after midnight, listening. At first, there was only the sigh of the trees outside. Then came the sound, faint, like footsteps dragging along the dirt path outside. Liang sat up, heart thumping. The footsteps stopped directly below his window. Slowly, he pushed the shutters open just enough to peer into the night. The mist had thickened, curling like smoke around the houses. And there, standing in the middle of the path, was a woman. She wore a red silk dress, the kind villagers might wear during old festivals. Her hair was long, black as midnight, and it spilled down her back like a curtain. But her face was hidden behind a crimson mask. The woman tilted her head slowly, as if sensing his gaze. For a breathless moment, Liang thought she was looking straight at him. Then she raised her hand and pointed toward his window. Liang shut the shutters with a gasp, his skin crawling. He pressed his back against the wall, candlelight flickering across his pale face. He waited, holding his breath, but the footsteps never came again. When he dared to look out once more, the path was empty. The next morning, Liang asked the innkeeper about what he had seen. The woman stiffened, her hands pausing over the bowl of rice she had been preparing. For a moment, she said nothing. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she murmured, "You must not speak of her. Not here." Liang frowned. "Who? The woman in the red mask?" The bowl slipped from the innkeeper's hands and shattered against the floor. Her face drained of color. She muttered something in a dialect Liang couldn't fully understand, then hurried away without answering. Liang stood frozen, unease spreading through him. That was when the old man from before appeared at the doorway. his eyes, dark and hollow, fixed on Liang. "You saw her," the old man said softly. "The red-masked lady." He told Liang to follow him. They walked to the edge of the village, where the fields gave way to a broken shrine half swallowed by weeds. Red paper charms clung to the wooden posts, their ink faded to near nothing. "She was once a woman of this village," the old man said, voice trembling with age. "Beautiful, envied. But beauty brings jealousy, and jealousy brings death." He did not look at Liang as he spoke. His eyes stayed on the shrine, as though afraid to turn away. "They say her husband betrayed her. They say she was attacked, her face cut until she was unrecognizable. Some claim she died cursing the village. Others whisper she never died at all. She walks at night, wearing a red mask to hide her ruined face. She asks questions to those who cross her path, and no matter how you answer, you will not escape." Liang's mouth was dry. "What kind of questions?" The old man finally turned his head. His eyes, suddenly sharp, pinned Liang in place. "Do you think I am beautiful?" The words hung heavy in the mist. Liang felt a chill run down his spine. He thought of the figure outside his window, of the way she had pointed at him. The old man's voice dropped lower. "Pray you never hear her voice in the dark." That night, Liang couldn't sleep. The air in his room felt heavy, pressing against his chest. Every creak of the wooden floor sounded like a footstep. Every flicker of candlelight stretched shadows across the walls. And then, closer this time, he heard it again. Footsteps. Slow. Dragging. Coming down the path outside his window. Liang's hand shook as he reached for the shutters. He wanted to see. He needed to know. He pushed the wood open a crack. The mist swirled. And there she was again. The red-masked lady. This time she was closer. Too close. Standing just beyond the window, her head tilted upward. The crimson mask gleamed faintly in the moonlight. Liang froze, unable to breathe. And then, for the first time, he heard her voice. Soft. Sweet. Terrible. "Do you think I am beautiful?" Liang's blood turned cold. The voice was soft, almost musical, yet it carried something sharp within it, like a blade hidden in silk. "Do you think I am beautiful?" He wanted to answer, but his tongue stuck to the roof of his mouth. His body screamed at him to shut the shutters, to hide, to pretend he had never heard her. But something stronger, curiosity, or perhaps a cruel pull from the legend itself, forced him to whisper back, "Yes." The silence that followed was unbearable. Then the woman tilted her head, the red mask catching the pale glow of moonlight. "Even like this?" Her hand lifted slowly toward her face. Liang's heart hammered in his chest. A part of him wanted to see what was behind that mask. Another part, the greater part, knew that nothing good could come from it. Before she could remove it, Liang slammed the shutters shut and stumbled back, his breath ragged that he didn't sleep the rest of the night. At dawn, the village felt strangely alive. Women were sweeping their doorsteps with bundles of reeds, men led oxen to the fields, and children carried buckets of water from the stream. But beneath the surface, there was tension, like a song played too softly to hear, yet heavy enough to feel in one's bones. Liang stepped outside, trying to shake the images from his head. The innkeeper avoided his eyes. The old man was nowhere to be seen, yet whispers followed him through the narrow dirt lanes, carried on the cold mountain air. An outsider saw her. "He won't last the week. She always takes one who speaks." Liang clenched his fists. He wanted to dismiss it all as superstition, but the memory of that mask, that voice, refused to leave him. Later that day, while wandering the outskirts, Liang found a young woman tending to a line of incense sticks before the broken shrine he had seen before. Her hands moved with ritual precision, pressing each stick into the earth, lighting them with a trembling flame. She noticed him and stiffened. "You shouldn't be here." "I'm just curious," Liang said softly. "Who is she?" "Really?" The young woman hesitated. She was perhaps in her 20s, her face pale, eyes rimmed with sleepless shadows. After a long silence, she spoke. "My name is May. My grandmother used to tell me the story. The red-masked lady was betrayed, humiliated, left to die. They cut her face so no one would look at her again. But she was strong, stronger than death. Her spirit lingered. May's voice dropped lower, almost a whisper. She punishes with questions. If you say yes, she shows you her face. And when you scream, she cuts your mouth open to look like hers. If you say no, she kills you on the spot. Liang swallowed hard. Then how can anyone escape her? Mei looked at him for the first time. Her eyes were dark, filled with something like pity. No one escapes. Not truly. That night, the village held a ritual. Lanterns lined the paths, their glow fighting back the mist. Drums beat slowly, echoing through the valley. Villagers carried bowls of rice, plates of fruit, and folded red papers. They placed the offerings before the shrine, bowing 3 times before whispering prayers. Liang stood at the edge, watching. The air smelled of burning incense and something bitter, something like old blood. When the ritual ended, the old man approached him again. His voice was heavy, as if each word cost him something. You shouldn't have spoken to her. Liang's chest tightened. I didn't, he stopped. That would be a lie. The old man's gaze was grim. She has chosen you now. Once she points at you, once she asks her question, your fate is sealed. Liang felt his stomach twist. There must be a way. The old man said nothing, only turned and walked into the shadows. Over the next days, the village seemed to close in on Liang. Doors shut as he passed. Children no longer played outside. Mei avoided him, though once he caught her watching from behind a curtain, her expression torn between fear and something else. The nights were the worst. The footsteps came without fail, dragging softly through the dirt. Sometimes closer, sometimes farther. Sometimes they stopped directly outside his door, waiting. He stopped lighting the candle. He stopped looking out, but on the 4th night, just as his exhaustion finally began to pull him into sleep, he heard something new. Not footsteps, not dragging, knocking. 3 slow knocks against the wood of his door. Liang froze. Then came the voice. Do you think I am beautiful? His throat tightened. His breath caught. He didn't answer. The silence stretched longer and longer until he thought he would go mad from the waiting. Finally, the voice whispered again, this time softer, almost inside his ear. Even like this? Liang covered his head with the blanket, shaking violently, his body drenched in sweat. He stayed that way until dawn. When the sun finally broke through the mist, he dared to look. The door was unmarked. But on the wooden floor, right outside, was something that hadn't been there before. A single red mask. Liang did not touch the mask. He stood in the doorway, staring at it as though it might move on its own. The crimson surface gleamed faintly in the morning light, smooth except for the cracks running across it like veins. It was far too clean, too polished, to have come from the mud-drenched streets outside. Someone or something had placed it there for him. The innkeeper noticed him staring when he came down later. Her lips pressed into a tight line. Without a word, she took a broom and swept the mask into a woven basket. She covered it with rags and carried it away, as if by hiding it, she could erase what it meant. Liang called out to her. Wait, but she never looked back. The air in the village thickened. The people avoided him more openly now. He felt their eyes on him whenever he walked, full of a quiet fear. Conversations hushed when he passed point one evening. Liang found Mei at the stream, washing clothes. The lantern light shimmered on the surface of the water, breaking her reflection into fragments. You saw it, didn't you? She said without looking at him. Liang nodded. His voice cracked. She leaves the mask. What does it mean? Mei's hands stilled on the wet fabric. She looked up at him then, her eyes haunted. It means she is waiting. Liang's breath faltered. Waiting for what? For you to answer her properly. That night, he dreamed that he was standing in the mist. The red mask lay at his feet. When he bent to pick it up, it melted into his skin, fusing with his face. He clawed at it, but it would not come off. Through the mask, he saw the village twisted and broken, houses sinking into the earth, villagers moving like puppets with no strings, mouths sewn shut. And then he saw her, the red mask lady. She walked slowly toward him, her long hair swaying, her mask gleaming. But when she raised her hand to remove it, he realized she wasn't showing him her face. She was showing him his. Beneath her mask was his own face, torn and bleeding, lips stretched open into a smile that wasn't his. Liang woke with a scream, drenched in sweat. The following day, the old man came to him once more. This time, his steps were unsteady, as though the weight of his words was too heavy to carry. "You've been chosen," the old man whispered. "And when she chooses, she does not stop." Liang grabbed his arm, desperation cracking his voice. "There must be a way to break it. Some ritual, some prayer, something." The old man's eyes closed. For a long moment, Liang thought he would say nothing. But then the old man murmured, "There is one way. A cruel way. If you offer another soul in your place, she will take them instead. The mask will pass to them." Liang's stomach twisted. "You mean sacrifice?" The old man looked at him with eyes that had seen too much. "That is why the legend never dies. Someone always chooses to live." The thought festered in Liang's mind like rot. Everywhere he turned, he saw fear. The innkeeper's silence, the villagers' stares, May's haunted eyes. He began to wonder how many of them had already bargained with her. How many had pointed her toward someone else? One evening, Liang followed May back to her home. She lived in a narrow house near the edge of the fields, candles glowing faintly in the windows. When she saw him, she hesitated, then led him inside. The room was filled with charms, paper talismans pinned to the walls, strings of bells hanging from the beams, bowls of salt at every corner. "You're trying to keep her out," Liang said quietly. May's hands trembled as she set down her lantern. "She comes for me too. She always has." Liang felt the words burn into him. "Why you?" May's voice broke. "Because my mother offered her my soul when she was young. To save herself." Silence stretched between them. May's face was pale, her lips trembling. She looked like someone already halfway gone, living in borrowed time. Liang wanted to comfort her. Instead, a darker thought clawed at his mind, that if the curse could pass, could he survive if she took May instead? That night, the knocking came again. 3 slow knocks. His heart pounded as the voice followed, sweet as silk, sharp as a knife. "Do you think I am beautiful?" Liang clenched his fists. The old man's words thundered in his skull. "Offer another soul. The mask will pass to them." He opened his mouth. The name May trembled on his lips. But then, he stopped. The silence on the other side of the door was heavier than death. And then slowly the voice whispered again. "Even like this?" Liang could feel her waiting, patient, hungry. His throat ached with the weight of the choice. He closed his eyes. And in that moment, he understood the truth of the curse. The red masked lady wasn't just a ghost. She was a mirror, a reflection of betrayal itself. Every villager who had lived this long had chosen someone else. That was how she survived. That was why her mask was always red, that it was painted in the blood of sacrifice. The next morning, May was gone. Her house stood open, charms torn from the walls, bowls of salt overturned. No one in the village spoke of her. No one asked. Liang stood at her door, staring into the empty room. His hands shook. His lips trembled that he didn't remember speaking her name the night before. But in his heart, he wasn't sure. That evening, when Liang returned to his room at the inn, the red mask was waiting for him again. This time, it was not on the floor. It was lying on his pillow. The mask lay on the pillow like a second head waiting for him. Liang stood frozen in the doorway, his chest rising and falling in shallow breaths. The crimson surface gleamed faintly, though there was no candle burning in the room. It seemed to glow from within, as if it carried its own fire. He wanted to throw it out the window, to smash it, to burn it, but his feet moved against his will. He stepped closer, his hand trembling as it reached down. The mask was cold, colder than ice, colder than stone. It sank into his skin with a chill that made his bones ache. For a moment, he thought he felt it pulse like a heartbeat, and then he heard her voice again. "Do you think I am beautiful?" Liang's throat burned. He whispered, "No." The silence that followed was unbearable. Then slowly, the air around him shifted, growing heavy and wet, like the moment before a storm. Shadows gathered at the corners of the room, and there she was. The red-masked lady stood before him, her long hair swaying like black water. The mask hid her face, but her presence filled every inch of space. "You lied," she whispered. Liang stumbled back, shaking his head. "No, You said yes before, and you screamed inside your soul. You are no different than the rest." She raised her hand slowly. Her fingers, long and pale, touched the mask he held. "Put it on." Liang's heart thundered. His instincts screamed to run, but his body obeyed her command. The mask rose in his hands and pressed against his face. The world went dark. When his vision cleared, he was no longer in the inn. He stood in the middle of the mist-covered path, the village silent around him. The lanterns were extinguished, the houses empty. Shadows stretched long and crooked, bending at impossible angles. In the distance he saw movement. Figures, villagers, walking stiffly through the fog. Their faces were blank, smooth skin stretched where mouths should have been. They moved without sound, without breath. Liang touched his own face, panic rising in his chest. The mask clung to him like a second skin. He clawed at it, but it would not come off. His nails scraped against the surface, drawing blood from his own cheeks, but the mask only tightened. A voice whispered in his ear, "Do you think you are beautiful now?" He spun around. The red mask lady stood inches from him. Slowly, she lifted her hands to her face. With a terrible grace, she removed her mask. Liang braced himself for ruin, for horror. But what he saw froze him completely. It was not her face beneath the mask. It was his own face, cut open, mouth slit from ear to ear, blood dripping in dark rivulets down his neck. His own eyes staring back at him, empty and endless. Liang screamed, the sound tearing his throat raw. But the scream did not come from his own mouth. It came from the mask. And in that moment, he understood the final truth. There had never been just one red mask lady. Each victim who answered her, each soul that tried to escape, became her. Their faces were torn, their voices stolen, their masks passed on. That was why she always returned. Why the curse never died. Because the red mask lady was not a ghost of one betrayed woman. She was all of them. And now she was him too. When dawn came, the village returned to life. Children ran by the stream. Farmers carried baskets to the fields. But none of them spoke of the outsider. No one asked where Liang had gone. Only May's house remained empty, its charms torn away. That night, the mist curled thick around the village. A traveler on the road paused when he saw a figure standing in the path. A woman in a red silk dress. Her long hair swayed in the night breeze. A crimson mask hid her face. She tilted her head slowly toward the traveler, and in a voice sweet and soft as silk, she asked, "Do you think I am beautiful?" Thank you for listening to tonight's story. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And remember, not every shadow is empty, and not every voice in the dark is in your head. Good night, and stay safe.